Hello, it is author D.L. White again on another Throwback Thursday. Today I am featuring my debut novel, Brunch at Ruby's. This is an upmarket women's fiction novel featuring Black women set in Atlanta, Georgia. It's about three women who have been best friends their whole lives and their sort of life adventures surrounding their monthly brunch at a little spot called Ruby's Soul Food Cafe. And if you've ever been to the Busy Bee in Atlanta, I modeled Ruby's a little bit after that little cafe. It's Black owned. It's just a little soul food spot, and it just seemed like a really comfortable spot where people could just, drop in and eat and chat with their girlfriends once a month. Ruby's is, of course, bigger, and it's owned by a little old woman named Ruby. But her sons currently own and operate the restaurant, and Deborah, Maxine, and Renee have been coming to the spot their whole lives. So I'm going to read a bit of chapter 15. And this scene happens right after their previous brunch, and Deborah has just revealed to her friends that she had an affair and her marriage is in trouble and she might lose her job. And they did not react positively. And by they, I mean Maxine. Well, let's just go ahead and read it. Chapter 15. Maxine. I mean, just the nerve, the gall of that woman, me of all people. She was lashing out and taking everyone with her, and I'm not going down like that. But if you know she was just lashing out, how can you still be mad? Easy. You don't understand because she didn't try to link arms with you and call you a whore. She didn't call you a whore, Max. If you remember, it was the other way around. And if you really think that about her, then, well, of course I don't. But she made me mad, acting like we have something in common. Perched at my vanity table, running through my regimented morning routine, moisturize, pluck, conceal, and reveal. Renee's voice sounds tinny through the speakers of my phone, but I need both hands to do this delicate work so that I can leave on time. Virgil takes his job seriously, and if I'm not there to begin the staff meeting at 8:30 a.m. sharp, he's testy with me all morning, as if I wouldn't fire him and throw his stylish, snappily dressed behind out in the street. I guess I wouldn't. Virgil knows that, which is why he's so damn bossy. I'll make up with Deborah when I'm good and ready. I can't just let this blow over, No, I don't know, says Renee. I hear shuffling in the background and what sounds like Bernard asking her something. Her voice is muffled as she answers him, and after a moment she comes back to the phone. Sorry, we're running late this morning and he's mad about it. I'd better get some breakfast on before I head to the shop. Isn't that what Jessie's for? She's not the maid. And I want him to know that I'm doing things for him. I don't want him to wake up one day and think I've shoved him off onto someone else. I'm sure he knows, Renee. It sounds funny because my mouth is open while I apply mascara. I flick the wand from root to tip, expertly darkening each lash and separating the lashes with a miniature comb. I bat my eyes at myself in the mirror and smile, pleased. I don't know about that, but just in case, I want to do it while I can. I don't know how much longer I'll be doing it. I pluck a tube of lipstick from my collection of designer shades. I smooth the deep crimson onto my top and bottom lips, rub them together, and blot with a Kleenex. Did you check into that retirement home? How did it look? Yeah, I went up there. She fills me in on her tour of the facility. Sounds cushy, a nice place to spend your twilight years. Renee sounds skeptical. It's an option. I don't think now is the time, if there's ever a time, to put him in a home. If ever. I stop fluffing my hair, just out of heated rollers. The curls are gorgeous, big, and bouncy, but I know as soon as I hit that humid Georgia air that they'll fall like a rock. You can't take care of him forever, you know that, right? What if he falls or something? He falls all the time. He's going to break something soon. I hear a crash in the background and a male voice cries out. Daddy, Renee yells, without bothering to pull the phone away from her mouth. I'm making your eggs right now. Stop it. More grumbling, more yelling, more noise. I heard you. I'm doing it. Go watch the news or something. Get it on my nerves. The doorbell chimes over the din. That's Jessie. Thank God. This man has lost his mind throwing around Mama's pans. She blows an impatient puff of air into the phone. Look, I gotta go before he sets something on fire. Call Deborah, all right? She really needs us right now. I'll think about it. Maxine. Fine. I will call her later. Okay. Just make sure you get in touch with her soon. I don't want this whatever to go on too long. She needs us. You said that, Renee. I'll do it. I need to go. You're making me late. I push myself back from the vanity table and pad into my favorite spot in my condo, a spacious walk-in closet, an entire room unto itself. It makes me happy to step inside and be enveloped by rows upon rows of fine fabrics and classic materials that stand the test of time and fashion. I designed the closet from the glass-topped shoe drawers to ample space to hang dresses, skirts, slacks, coats, whatever I feel like storing. My favorites are always hung in the section closest to the door. While I love to try new couture, luxury lines and styles and be a little daring, my daily wardrobe is more classic cuts, and I wear some selections more than others. I thumb through my choices until I find something that speaks to me, a beautiful Prada dress, and pair it with with black leather 4-inch black leather 4-inch heel slouch boots to match. I practically skip out of the closet and rush back to the bedroom to dress. I toss off my thick terry cloth robe and drape it across the edge of the already made bed, step into the dress and the boots. They zip easily and fit just right, hugging my feet in decadent leather. I check my reflection in the full-length mirror that hangs on the closet door, smoothing the dress over my hips and smile at my perfect size 4 frame. From the jewelry box, I select an understated diamond solitaire and clasp it around my neck. Insert matching diamond studs in my ears and pick up a platinum Gucci watch. Lastly, I drip a few drops of Dolce & Gabbana, the one around my neck. Satisfied, I pick up my purse from a table in the hall, toss the phone into the bag, and walk out, locking the door behind me. My Maserati sits safe and sound in her spot in the secure parking garage. A swipe of a finger unlocks the door, and I climb in, press the ignition button, and pull out of the garage. I don't live far from the office, a detail that I didn't plan, but it happened to work out for me. I bought the condo at a steal from a client who was trying to unload it. Renovations took months, but when it was complete, it was everything I ever dreamt a home could be. The original construction was sound, high ceilings, thick noise-canceling walls between units. I had real hardwood floors installed in the entryway, living room, and dining room, and marble tile laid in the kitchens and bathrooms. I tore out walls and built new ones, had the entire place wired for surround sound and high definition, and generously coated the place in a brilliant white paint. Deborah says she feels uncomfortable in my place because it's so pristine. White walls, white leather furniture, stainless steel appliances and fixtures. When I could get what I wanted, I went for it. It's just another thing she doesn't understand about me. Despite what I said to Renee, I have been thinking about Deborah. It's been weeks since I heard from her. In the past, she's always been quick to reach out and make up. She's good at offering the olive branch. I'm good at taking it. Granted, we both have apologies to make, and I guess I'm waiting to see how long she's going to hold out, but I'm probably the last thing on her mind. It's unlike her to be so emotional, such a live wire, so reactionary. Deborah's are even keel, cool, and collected. She's the calm to our storm. If Deborah falls apart, Renee and I have no hope. I flash my badge out the security gate, park in my reserved spot, and catch the elevator going up just as the doors are closing. I press the button for the top floor and squeeze in. Donovan Luxury Realty leases space in one of Atlanta's most prestigious high-rises. From my desk, my view is midtown, downtown, and beyond, from the bustling metropolis to suburban eclectic to exclusive, gated upper-crust real estate. My fellow passengers are 3 men in finely tailored Italian suits, anxiously checking watches or tapping touchscreens, trying to appear as if they aren't taking sidelong glances in my direction. I'm used to it, but that doesn't mean I don't notice it. I also notice wedding bands, or, in the case of one man, the telltale telltale indent where a ring usually sits. He's the one staring the hardest. One by one, they step off at their respective floors. At 33, the doors soundlessly slide open. The elevator lobby, also Virgil's domain, is in its usual elegant state, with morning sun warming delicate white orchids and vacuum stripes in the deep pile carpet. Appearance is everything. If you don't make a good first impression, you've already lost the client. I throw open the double doors to the Donovan suite and step inside, ready to conquer the day. The Monday sales meeting has become an episode of The Young and the Restless, or more appropriately, The Rich and the Spoiled. My agents, seated around the oblong cherry wood table, offer updates on open, stale properties. These go on a list that I call the trouble list, which is reviewed weekly. Virgil and I determine action items to move them to closing. Virgil begins with an update on the Newman listing. Last week, we met with Fletcher Callahan, Braxton Newman, and his attorney. Adora Newman signed a prenuptial agreement. She's surprised to find herself basically tossed out on her ass at only 2 years into a marriage that she expected to last much longer. So long as she refused to sign the divorce papers, Braxton is legally obligated to take care of her. We agreed that Braxton would approach Adora with a cash offer to include moving her to one of his other properties where she will live rent-free for a period of 6 months. This will give her funds to live on and get back on her feet, as it were. Virgil stops to drop a sardonic chuckle. Adora is an exotic dancer. With a name like Adora, I don't think she could do anything else. When was Braxton going to offer her the money? And how soon can he move her out? The place needs to be cleaned and staged. He was supposed to have met with her over the weekend. I'll call him as soon as we're out of this meeting and get an update. I nod. Virgil tips forward and bends his head over his notebook. He scratches a few lines, dots the last sentence with a flourish, and drops his pen. Jonathan, tell us about the Stone Mountain property. At 6'3", 350 pounds, deep brown skin and honey brown eyes, Jonathan looks more like a pro linebacker than a seasoned real estate professional, but he's been with me the longest. He and I worked for Coldwell Realty before I flew the coop to start my own firm. Jonathan showed up on my doorstep 2 weeks after I launched Donovan with a vision for serving Atlanta's elite population with delectable properties. He agreed to a trial run on nothing but a handshake and sold his first home for Donovan a week later. We've been in business ever since. His property is a $1.6 million home within a gated community, perfect for an up-and-coming doctor, well-to-do attorney, or even a junior politician. The surrounding neighborhood lands it on the trouble list. For a mile on either side of the gates, the homes are run down with peeling paint, boarded-up windows, unkempt yards with broken-down cars parked in full view on prominent display. There was a break-in last week, which I discovered when I went to prep the place for a showing. Pretty much cleaned the place out of copper pipes and wires. Took a few appliances. The property owners filed a police report. Thankfully, everything's covered under insurance. My problem is that they now want to sell as is. They don't want to buy new appliances. What about the pipes and the wiring? The electrician and plumbers will be out this week to do an estimate of what it will cost to replace it. They're talking about pulling the house off the market. For how long? Until they replace everything? Presumably. It's either that or they lower the price to under $1 million and let the new owners worry about a dishwasher. The expression on my face likely reveals my thoughts on the situation. I glance at Virgil, knowing he can read my mind. He clears his throat and leans forward, fiddling with his pen as he speaks. Donovan isn't selling a mini mansion as is, like a foreclosure. If they have to pull it off the market to get it fixed, fine. But stay on them. We need this. We need to close this sale. That's my plan. I pulled it down from the listing service, and as soon as I hear from the owners, I'll update you with an ETA as to when it will be available again. If there's no new business, let's wrap this up. I close my notebook and twist my Mont Blanc pen closed. A flurry of activity and low murmurs follows as my staff, or agents and Virgil, push away from the conference room table and file out of the room. I linger for a few moments, lost in thought as I scan the Atlanta skyline through the floor-to-ceiling window. I have to get this Deborah thing out of the way. I am not good at groveling, which is why I always make her come to me first. It doesn't seem like she's going to come this time. May as well get it over with. In my office, behind the closed door, I take a seat and dig out my mobile phone, scrolling to the M's in the address book. When I reach Deborah Macklin, I hold my finger over the number. I used to think nothing of bothering her in the middle of the morning, especially on a Monday. Before I can change my mind, I press the icon to call Deborah's desk. Deborah Macklin. I toy with pretending to be angry, but lose all resolve once I hear her voice. She sounds so tired. Deborah, it's Max. She's quiet for a moment, then breathes a sigh of relief. Honestly, I feel relieved too. Max, hi. I'm so glad you called. Hang on a second. I hear her put the phone down, the muffled sound of a door closing, and she's back. Okay, I needed a little privacy. A little privacy would probably have been a good idea when you're doing the PE teacher. She chuckles despite her morose tone. I'm gonna let you have that because I owe you an apology. Surprised, my eyebrows lift. Do you now? I know you've been waiting for me to come around. She forces out a heavy breath. I feel its weight across the line. I don't know what I'm doing, you know? I didn't mean for what I said to hurt you, and I'm so sorry I said it. I am sorry for what it meant for you to hear that. I didn't mean that you and I were alike, not in that way, I prod. I've never had man problems before, she admits quietly. Little does she know how jealous this makes me. You have men eating out of the palm of your hand. Haven't you ever been caught between the affections of two men? Haven't you been bored with one and sought out excitement with another? My affair, my marriage, they're a big, huge deal, but on a very basic level. I guess I thought you might have some advice for me. That would make sense if you would have. I paused, remembering Renee's words. This isn't about me. First of all, I'm sorry for calling you a whore. I don't think that about you, and I never did. It was just the worst thing I could think of to call you, and it fell out of my mouth, and it never should have, okay? Okay, I hear the small smile in her voice. Deborah is so easy to please. Secondly, honey, have you talked to Willard? She sighs. Yeah, some. Yeah? And, well, it looks like I might be moving out. I grip the phone so it doesn't slide through my fingers. Deborah and Willard have the most stable relationship I've ever seen. Or so I thought. You're kidding. No. That day that I left brunch, I ended up in bed with David. She ends the sentence on a whisper, and I feel my eyes roll. I can't help it. Really, Deborah. I know. I fell asleep, and I woke up late. I'd missed calls from Renee and Kendra. Kendra had called Willard looking for me. I knew he'd be able to guess where I was. He didn't say anything to me all week, but last night he came home early and he was typing something up in his office. Later on, he dropped it on me, laid it out. Dropped what? Laid what out? A letter. He said he'd been giving me some time to sort things out, but that I'd made it clear where my priorities are. He said either I go before the holidays so we don't have to pretend for family, or he goes and he takes Kendra. A sob caught in her throat. Can he do that? Can he take my baby? I don't even know what to say. I'm so ashamed of myself. Damn, girl. I think you need to stop feeling sorry for yourself and call a lawyer. I guess maybe I do. I was hoping. You're not really going to leave, are you? Like move out of your own house? He expects me to. Or he leaves with Kendra, and I don't want her uprooted like that. I know it doesn't help, but if you need anything, a place to stay or someone to be there while you're crying to a glass of wine, you know my number. Thanks, she says through sniffles. A long, protracted bell sounds in the background. Oh, that's me. Gotta go. I feel like I haven't done any work today and I have so much of it to do. You stay away from that PE teacher, you hear me? He's nothing but trouble. She chuckles a sad little pitter-patter of laughter. I think it's a little late for that. The superintendent knows. How does she find out? Somebody's big mouth. There's so much going on. I also had to talk to Kendra. My jaw drops. Girl, you've been keeping all of this to yourself? I know. It's bad. Well, one of my clients is having a big party in a couple of weeks, and I told Renee that we three were going. You should come shopping with us this weekend. You need your girls right now. Oh, Max, she sighs, sounding dejected. I don't think I'm up for a party. It's a cocktail party. You stand around with a drink in your hand and eat and gossip. You can do that for 2 hours. Think about it. She sighs, mumbles something about having to get to work, and hangs up without saying goodbye. I'm trying to decide if I should keep reading. I sort of want to Just so you get a little taste of Renee too, because Renee is my favorite. I don't really write myself in books, but um, if any of my characters are the most like me, it's Renee. If there's any character that people really identify with, it's Renee. And so she's kind of, Deborah is actually the anchor of Brunch at Ruby's. Everything kind of happens around Deborah, and Maxine and Renee do have issues going on. So there's definitely three points of view, but Deborah's the anchor of Brunch at Ruby's. Renee, I think, is going to be the anchor of the actual follow up um, to I'm trying to write a sequel, it's a true sequel to this book. Dinner at Sam's is set in the same universe, but it's not really a sequel. There's some cameos from the girls in that book, but it's not really a sequel. It doesn't continue their story. Drinks at Minx continues the story of these three ladies, and I think Renee is going to be the foundation of that book. So I'm going to go a little into chapter 16 just because I like Renee a lot. Chapter 16, Renee. Daddy has what Jesse and I call a rough temperament. I've never known him to be a happy-go-lucky person. I don't know what a good mood looks like for him. I never have. Mama learned to ignore his rumblings. He doesn't mean it, she would say, smoothing a hand down my back to comfort me after he'd uttered something particularly hurtful. He's doing his best. I disagreed. He's been an unbearable, irrational person to be around for the last week. Even Jessie remarked on it, to which he advised her as to where she could shove her opinion of his behavior. It's a good thing she's not easily offended, or we'd have lost the last nurse in Atlanta that would care for him. Today, he's worked himself into such a fury that he had to lay down for a few hours. Last week, I happened to be flipping through an old calendar that my mother kept in her office. In January of each year, she'd sit down with an old calendar and a new one, transferring birthdays, anniversaries, and other dates of note. I'd forgotten my aunt's birthday, and though it was 7 years old, I knew I could find it on this calendar. The last one my mother updated. I recognized certain events like retirement parties and guest speakers at the bookstore. Mama loved to host city officials, really anyone important that needed a space to give a speech. I smiled at her classy, slanted handwriting and flipped a few pages forward, finding all of the dates that Mother thought important enough to remember. She even noted Maxine and Deborah's birthdays, Daddy's birthday, my birthday, and hers, October 9th. At some point, an X had been drawn through November 17th. I guess it was Daddy, since he ran the bookstore after she was gone. He could never bring himself to throw away anything that belonged to her, so he would have kept this calendar. I glanced up at the current calendar on the wall. November 9th. Jessie walks through the house, picking up things Daddy had thrown or knocked over mid-fit. Embarrassed, I join her in setting the house straight again. It's the disease, baby, Jessie finally says, breaking a long, thick silence. It's not him. I know, I mumble, on the verge of tears. It's frustrating for him, too. I guess, but he gets to forget it. She laughs, picking up 2 throw pillows and arranging them on the couch just so. It's not just the illness. I sit on the couch where she'd placed the pillows. I gestured that she should sit too. She eases her large frame onto the cushion next to me. I know. It's your mama too. He always gets bad around the middle of November. She died about when? The 17th. Jessie hums and nods, clasping her hands together. Yeah. That'll be it. He's missing your mama. Also, when she was sick, he refused to believe there was nothing more that could be done. He felt like she gave up. He thought she should have kept fighting, joined another med trial, took another round of chemo, something more. But sometimes there's nothing you can do but enjoy the time you have left. By the time he finally got that, she was in decline. He wasn't ready. I shake my head. He still isn't. And I think he's angry with himself for wasting so much time that he could have spent with her. Sometimes, when he's having a real good day, he gets to talking. She nods, as if reassuring herself. He talks about your mama. He loved Lorraine more than anything. I turn toward her and draw my feet up onto the couch. What else does he say? He talks about you and about how he would do things different. He knows he wasn't the best daddy, but he did what he could. He always thought your mama would be around, to be a buffer between y'all. He says he don't think you know him, and he for sure don't know you. All he knows is that you look like Lorraine. You remind him of her. So that's why he's so crappy when I'm around. No, no, baby. You make him feel like Lorraine is here with him. He's crabby because he's a grumpy old man. This makes me laugh longer and harder than I've laughed in a long time. What you got planned to mark your mama's passing? We don't usually do anything for it. It's not like it's an anniversary we like to celebrate. I think it would help for y'all to do something that would remind him of Lorraine. You ever take him to visit her? I shudder. I haven't been to the cemetery in years, not since the headstone came in and I went out there to make sure everything looked fine. Daddy hasn't been there since the day we buried her. No, I can't bring myself to go there. Jessie pats me on the shoulder before she wrestles herself up from the couch. It's not about you, baby girl. That man up there, she points upward, in effect through the ceiling to Daddy's room where he lay slumbering. He's hurting. It's not about you. The 8th anniversary of my mother's death arrives in an explosion of sun. It's the warmest I can remember it being in November. The hardiest of birds are in the bare trees that surround our house, chirping away as Daddy and I step out of the side door into the driveway. I'd pulled my car out of the garage and left it idling, then gone inside to get him. He's dressed in a button-down white shirt, black slacks, socks, and shoes that I helped him shine earlier. We even shaved the gray, matted beard that he would never let me or Jessie touch. Mama liked him clean-shaven. Daddy stops at the passenger side door and steps back. You expect me to ride in this piece of foreign junk? I laugh and shake my head and reach for the door, swinging it open. He's mumbling something about Toyota, but lowers himself into the car. I pull the safety belt across him tightly and snap the buckle. You think I don't know how to put on a seat belt? I used to build cars, you know. I smirk. It's feisty today. At least he's playful and not mean. I drop a kiss on his forehead, and I can tell this gesture surprises him. I just have to make sure we get you there safely, Daddy. I shut the door gently and walk around to the driver's side and slip in beside him. We say nothing, reveling in quiet moments on the drive. He watches the scenery pass by. I'm tamping down my anxiety at seeing my mother's name etched into stone, the dates of her life and death memorialized until the end of time. I turn into Rest Haven Memorial Gardens and drive through 2 stately white stone columns. I follow the path that I haven't traveled in years, but still somehow know by heart, passing rows upon rows of white crosses and gray headstones. So many people gone, so many lives to be remembered. I slow, then pull over so as not to block the path for anyone else and put the car in park. Before I cut the ignition, I look over at Daddy. His mouth is slack, not a taut line across his face. There are no wrinkles of worry or agitation across his forehead. There are no darts of anger between his brows. He's at peace. That brings me peace. Let's go see your mama. He unbuckles his seatbelt and opens the door, meeting me on my side of the car. Together we walk the natural path between the plots. 10 rows up, 6 plots over. There she is, he says, stopping in front of the headstone we had designed together, the placement of which I'd supervised. Except for the stems of long-dead roses and the built-in metal vases on each side of the headstone, the area looks good, free of weeds, not overgrown in the least. In fact, it looks as if the lawn has been freshly mowed. The grass is a bit damp, either from morning dew or a fresh watering. I toss away the stems and brush away bits of grass and dirt that had gathered in the crevices. Daddy stares at the headstone, more so at the photo of her that we'd had encased behind a pane of glass. She wore a bright indigo blue short-sleeved sundress. Her hair was lovely as always, a bob that fell just above her shoulders that layered in graying waves. It was one of those over-the-shoulder poses that we'd captured at a family picnic. We called it her glamour shot, and she loved that photo. It was the last one we took before we learned of her cancer, its advanced stage, and her prognosis. She seemed to age almost immediately after that. The photo captures her spirit and holds it in limbo forever. She wanted to be remembered this way. Above the photo is her name, Lorraine Jeanette Sims Gladwell. I paid a small fortune to have an engraver etch her name, mimicking her signature. Her dates of birth and death are below the photos, and seeing today's date 8 years ago doesn't stab me in the heart like I thought it would. She was a good woman, Daddy said. I sure miss her. You're a lot like her, my Lorraine. I squint in the sunlight, but smile at Daddy. Really? You think so? Is his response. He taps the top of the headstone with the note of finality and turns away, walking back to the car. I guess we're done here. Come on. You said we was going to lunch. I ain't been there in a long time. As I help Daddy over the threshold and through the front door at Ruby's, a short stump of a woman lumbers down the hallway behind the cash register that leads to the back offices. Ruby won't give up ownership, but she hasn't done the day-to-day management of the restaurant in many years. This falls to her son Richard, her son and general manager. He follows closely behind her, bewilderment all over his face. I'm not going to tell you again, Richard. Mama, I'm working on it. You didn't like the last 3 quotes I got for the work. She stops short and turns to him, balls a pudgy fist on a generous hip and arches her neck back so she can look at her son, who stands well over 6 feet, in the eye. Then get more quotes. The place looks like shit. Y'all frying in too much lard if it's splattering the walls like that. The place needs a good cleaning up, and I don't care what excuse you give me that you can't get it done. I can get it done, Mama, but you realize it means we have to close up shop for that? Well, whatever it takes, she bellows, turning just in time to see me and Daddy walk past her. That ain't Bernard Gladwell, is it? Upon hearing his name, Daddy stops and looks around. I hear a little loudmouth in here. Where is she? She marches into the lobby, where others are waiting to be seated for lunch, and walks right up to Daddy, her head angled up toward him. Down here, you fool! How you been? Daddy smiles, his first smile in a long time. Some days bad, some days good. I'm doing all right today, ain't I, Noodle? He turns to me for confirmation that he's been on his best behavior. I smile at Ruby as she glances toward me with a scowl. He's been good today, Miss Ruby. Don't be too hard on him. Well, all right, long as he's not giving you any problems, I know how he can be. Daddy chuckles, and I laugh along. Where you been all gussied up on a Thursday morning? Been to visit my dear Lorraine. Ruby's face instantly falls from a wicked grin to a sympathetic smile. Oh, Bernard, that's right. It's been 8 years, he finishes. I am actually surprised he remembers this. Ruby is solemn in her nodding. Yes, 8 years. I loved her so, that Lorraine. She brought little Renee in here all the time, one of my favorite customers. She clicks her tongue and sighs, shaking her head slowly. She was my favorite everything, Daddy says, his smile wistful but tinged with sadness. A moment later, he brightens. My daughter promised me lunch, so why don't you get in the kitchen and fix us up something? Ruby laughs, her melancholy crashing into giggles. I ought to smack you, Bernard, but I know Lorraine is watching from above. I'd be happy to make y'all something. How about my special? We both nod, grinning. Ruby's special is 2 pieces of hot fried chicken, gooey macaroni and cheese, collard greens, made with pork, but you could get them with turkey if you like, and fluffy sweet cornbread muffins. Ruby's special also comes with a wide slice of her sweet potato pie. She still bakes the pies for the restaurant, and they're always delicious. I feel bad about it, but we're seated right away. Ruby won't hear of us waiting in line, shoehorning us into a table near the window. Now you just give me a little bit. I got to fry the chicken special. Take your time, Miss Ruby. I watch her diminutive figure speed away. At 85, she moves like a woman 20 years her junior. It doesn't seem as if Ruby will go quietly into retirement, much to Richard's chagrin. She'll probably hang on for another 20 years just to spite him. Her family's from Memphis, same as your mama. That's how your mama knew her. Oh? A busboy sets glasses of water and silverware for our table. I wait for him to leave again before I press Daddy for details. He unwraps a straw and dunks it into his glass. I met your mama in Memphis. I played shortstop for the Atlanta Wildcats in a regional baseball league. All Negroes. Not the Negro Baseball League. No, girl, he waves a pale, bony hand at me. The Negro Baseball League disbanded when I was 9 years old. The South was slow to integrate sports, so we put together our own teams. We would travel and play different teams around the area. Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Carolinas. He sips water and a small smile crosses his lips. Lorraine was sitting with a bunch of girls on the Memphis Tigers side. Prettiest one in the bunch, wearing a blue dress like the one in the picture. I leaned in, intrigued. Like Jesse said, he needed to get the memories out so someone else could remember them too. After the game, everybody got together at this juke joint over on Beale Street. She was watching me from across the room, so I got up the nerve to speak. She was sitting next to Ruby's daughter, Yolanda. They were friends their whole lives. I remember Yolanda, I called her Aunt Yoli, and her mother and father staying with us when they'd finally moved from Memphis to Atlanta. Ruby and George bought a neighborhood cafe on the brink of closure, and before long, a star was born. Anyway, we talked for a while. She flirted with me. I played it cool. Daddy stops to wink in my direction before continuing his story. I knew that day that I would marry her. Didn't matter that she lived in Memphis. I would drive up there when I got the chance. We wrote letters, talked on the phone, got to know each other real slow, like it's meant to go. I marvel at how dating has changed since my mom and dad met. These days, you meet somebody and they practically want to be in bed before they know your full name. Short, misspelled emails or Facebook messages or texts that use letters for numbers have replaced letter writing. Phone calls? Maybe a rushed voicemail on his way to one thing from another. My parents were from the time of real courting. After a year, I was tired of all that driving to see her. I already knew what was going to happen, so I talked to her mama and daddy into letting her move to Atlanta. Promised I'd take care of her. Only way they let her do it is if she stayed with my folks. Mama lived with Grandma and Grandpa when she first moved here? Sure did. But 6 months before we married. By then I was working at Ford. It was hard work but good money. Lorraine was going to school for teaching. Didn't take long at all for us to get set up in a nice little place. It was cozy for a while. Then you come along. Life been crazy ever since. I giggle, seeing the glint in his eye. I'm really enjoying this time with my dad. Why did Mama stop teaching? I never understood that. She said she fell out of love with teaching. Negro schools got the books the white schools threw away. Old and outdated, written in like the kids knew the books we were going to Hoover. That's the school in the black neighborhood where Lorraine taught. So they'd write messages in the pages. Die, nigga, stuff like that. So she'd go through every book erasing stuff that was scribbled in them. Got too hard for her to handle. She'd cry herself to sleep every night. I asked her why she kept going back. She said she don't know. What else is there to do? I said she could do whatever she wanted to do. What do you want to do? I asked her. She rolls over and she says, you know how Yoli's mama opened Ruby's? I want to do something like that, except I want to open a bookstore. She asked me what I thought, and I told her, like I said, you can do whatever you want to do. He shrugged, then relaxed against the seat. She was real happy with Gladwell. She felt like it made a positive mark in the community. It did, and it still does. He pauses before his gaze meets mine. Gladwell's still doing all right? Gladwell is fine, Daddy. He seems pleased. Ruby delivers our lunch herself, balancing 2 full dinner plates and 2 small dessert plates on her arms while maneuvering through the packed restaurant. Here y'all go now. Take your time, eat up, and don't leave a lick of nothing on these plates. I want them clean, you hear? She turns to me especially with the hand on her hip. I know how you young ladies are about calories. Ain't no calories in this food today. You follow? I laugh and pick up my fork, ready to dig in. Maxine would just have to pick on me about gaining weight because I planned to follow Ruby's instruction to the letter. That was chapter 15 and chapter 16 of Brunch at Ruby's. I can't seem to speak my words. This book is available everywhere, basically, in ebook for 99 cents. It's available in paperback on Amazon, bookshop.com as well. They have it. If you want to support your local bookstore, you can grab this at bookshop.com. Almost all my books are at Bookshop, actually. If you want a paperback and you want to support your local bookstore. It's also available in audio. It's exclusive to Audible and iTunes. It's also a member of Audible Escape. So if you subscribe to Audible Escape, it's like Kindle Unlimited. So you subscribe for like $6.99 a month and you get to listen to any of the audiobooks that are enrolled in that program, as many as you like. Also, if you're a member of Scribd, which is a subscription-based service, all of my books except for my latest and the shorts are also available on Scribd. So you can borrow this book without having to buy it and return it like a library. It's also available on Overdrive, so you can request it through your library. So this is my debut. It's my first book. It's not really the first book I published. The first book I published was just a short. That was just a test, and I kind of unpublished it pretty soon after. But I call this one my debut because it was my first on purpose publishing of a book. This book opened a lot of doors for me, and it gave me something that I've been wanting for a long time. I just had really wanted to write a book, and if you think about all the people around you that are like, I want to write a book and never do, the fact that I've done that multiple times is a really cool thing, and I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud of this book. If you get it, I'm sure you will find mistakes in it and typos. Yes, you will. However, you will also find a really great story that took me 4 years to put down on paper. And it's 99 cents. So give a sis a break. So I will be back maybe 2 weeks from now with my next Throwback Thursday, which I think it only makes sense to do dinner at Sam's next. So I'm looking forward to that one because I really like Gibson and Vanessa a lot. Gibson's probably one of my favorite heroes. I like all of them. I don't really like Malcolm in Brunch at Ruby's. I like Joseph a lot, but who becomes Maxine's beau. I don't like Malcolm, Renee's man. Like, he's okay, but I'm not woozy over Malcolm. If she likes him, I love it, but he's not my favorite. But Gibson though, Gibson's dreamy. I also really like Cade, who I modeled a little bit after Kobe Bryant, and then Taj Wright, who was my former boy bander, and I super modeled his group Guy Next Door after NSYNC. It had to be done. So that is all I have for today. I have to go put my house dress back on. I did get dressed just for this. So hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.